Good morning, ladies.
Good morning, Father.
I appreciate the invitation to come and speak to you regarding the upcoming election. This year in particular, I'm reminded of a challenge faced by Odysseus in Homer's epic poem, The Odyssey. The Scylla and Charybdis were mythical sea monsters. Odysseus was faced with the peril of sailing between the two. Scylla was a six-headed sea monster on the Italian side of the Strait of Messina, and Charybdis was a whirlpool off the coast of Sicily. They were regarded as a sea hazard located close enough to each other so that they both posed an inescapable threat to passing sailors. Avoiding Charybdis meant passing too close to Scylla and vice versa. According to Homer, Odysseus was forced to choose which monster to confront while passing through the strait. He opted to pass by Scylla and lose only a few sailors rather than risk the loss of his entire ship in the whirlpool. Because of such stories, sailing between the Scylla and Charybdis came to be idiomatically associated with choosing between two evils. And this brings us to our present predicament. On one side of the two principal operators, we have a woman who has served a long time in public service and has certainly served in some important positions both in her state of Arkansas at the time and in the country. At the same time, if she had any other last name, she would probably be in a federal prison. Right? On the other side, we have a man who is successful in business. However, he's also a serial adulterer and is on his third marriage and has no problem writing about his exploits in some of his books. So I've been voting and participating in public life now for 32 years. I have to say that the present state of affairs is beyond belief. A particular time and place in history has been compared to the years of the final gasps of the Roman Empire before the beginning of the Dark Ages. The difference, as one bishop noted, was that at the beginning of the Dark Ages, the barbarians were only at the frontiers of the empire. In our case, they've been running the country for years. The solution for Christians in those days was to form authentic Christian community despite the empire's demise. And perhaps this is what we too must do. I do not think, however, that such a state of affairs allows us to forget what our bishops and the church herself teaches with regard to our role in political life. In this regard, the Catholic bishops of the United States provide guidance in their document, Forming Consciences for Faithful Citizenship, saying, quote, "In the Catholic tradition, responsible citizenship is a virtue, and participation in political life is a moral obligation," unquote. This reflects the teaching of the Catechism of the Catholic Church, which reminds us, quote, "It is necessary for all to participate, each according to his position and role, in promoting the common good. This obligation is inherent in the dignity of the human person. As far as possible, citizens should take an active part in public life," unquote. Bishop Thomas Paprocki, the Bishop of Springfield, Illinois, and one of the most competent canonists and jurists in the American episcopate, notes the following: "The phrase, 'as far as possible,' indicates that there may be legitimate limits to our active participation in public life. For example, priests do not normally hold public offices in the civic sphere. Voters may also legitimately conclude in conscience that they cannot vote for either candidate of the two major political parties. In such cases, voters in most jurisdictions can write in the name of a candidate of their choosing. In all cases, voters can skip voting for a particular office, but still vote for other offices on the ballot." Now, to be fair, this position has been criticized by some as simply giving a vote to the enemy, whoever their enemy they think is. I would argue, however, that it is a legitimate response of a conscientious Catholic after prudent consideration of all the facts in light of a well-formed Catholic conscience. At the same time, I would suggest that it is incumbent on each member of the Catholic faithful to properly form his or her conscience and understand clearly what the Church teaches, why she teaches what she teaches, and how to apply that teaching to the concrete situation at hand. In addressing this suggestion, I'm indebted to the excellent homily offered on October 2nd by Father John Lankite, the rector of the Cathedral of Saints Simon and Jude in Phoenix, Arizona. It has been making the YouTube rounds, and I believe Carolee will include a link to it in the email that will follow this meeting. We must all remember that there has never been a political party in this country which has aligned perfectly with Catholic teaching. Certainly our immigrant ancestors found succor in the arms of the Democratic Party when they first came to this country, but that in no way suggests that either party or the party platforms in their entirety are in harmony with Catholic teaching. And certainly the platforms of 100 years ago are quite different from the platforms today. Hence, as Catholics, we may never simply be a party man or woman, or simply say because mom and dad were this or that, then I am that as well. Our task is to turn a critical eye to the party platform, and based on that critique, discern which party is most aligned with Catholic teaching, especially in those areas that our bishops describe as the 5 non-negotiables. Before we deal with those non-negotiables, which involve those issues that always touch on matters that are intrinsically evil, I want to call us all to remember that much in the political sphere is left to the prudential judgment of the individual, guided, as I said earlier, by a well-formed Catholic conscience. Some of these issues include racial injustice, education, economic policy, affirmative action, immigration, and healthcare. Catholics can legitimately agree or disagree with various positions posited by the various party platforms without being in conflict with perennial church teaching. For example, in discussing immigration, one party's platform supports open borders and greater unfettered immigration based on humanitarian concerns, along with a desire for a more globalized society. The other sees unfettered immigration as a danger to national security and damaging to American workers. Catholics are free to espouse one or the other without violating Catholic teaching. If, for example, one party said that it was acceptable to shoot and kill any person here illegally who was working on American soil and taking an American job, that would obviously not be in keeping with our Catholic understanding of the dignity of the human person or the fundamental right to life. Another example would be climate change. There are various hypotheses and theories regarding climate change and how it should be addressed. Again, there are various possibilities that a Catholic could endorse without violating Catholic teaching and principles. And certainly there is some guidance in this regard in the Holy Father's letter Laudato Si. As I previously noted, however, the bishops do identify what are called non-negotiables, which touch on those matters, the violation of which is seen as an intrinsic evil that fundamentally conflict with the moral law and can never be permitted under any circumstance. These are abortion, euthanasia, embryonic stem cell research and human cloning, so-called gay marriage, and religious freedom. Each of the 2 major political parties have platform statements that address these matters, so it's fairly easy for a Catholic to examine the party platform and compare that to Catholic teaching. I encourage you to pick up a comparison of the 2016 party platforms, the copies of which I've left on the table by the entry doors. I want to specifically look at 2 issues on the platforms that we should be mindful of, namely religious freedom and human life. Under each heading, I will read the platform statement of each party and then comment briefly. Human life. The Republican platform, quote, "The Constitution's guarantee that no one can be deprived of life, liberty, or property deliberately echoes the Declaration of Independence's proclamation that all are endowed by their Creator with the inalienable right to life. Accordingly, we assert the sanctity of human life and affirm that the unborn child has a fundamental right to life which cannot be infringed. We support a human life amendment to the Constitution and legislation to make clear that the 14th Amendment's protections apply to children before birth." Democrat, quote, "Democrats are committed to protecting and advancing reproductive health, rights, and justice. We believe unequivocally that every woman should have access to quality reproductive health care services, including safe and legal abortion, regardless of where she lives, how much money she makes, or how she is insured. We believe that reproductive health is core to women's, men's, and young people's health and well-being. We will continue to oppose and seek to overturn federal and state laws and policies that impede a woman's access to abortion, including by repealing the Hyde Amendment, unquote. The Hyde Amendment is the amendment which forbade taxpayer money from going to pay for abortions. The differences here are starkly clear. The difference between abortion and other life issues, such as capital punishment, is that in the case of abortion, an innocent is always killed. Any Catholic who fully understands this and yet votes for a party or a candidate who supports abortion is enabling the continuation of intrinsic evil and is putting his or her soul in jeopardy. A number of bishops have pointed out that such persons should refrain from receiving Holy Communion. Religious freedom. Democrats know that our nation, our communities, and our lives are made vastly stronger and richer by faith in many forms and the countless acts of justice, mercy, and tolerance it inspires. We believe in lifting up and valuing the good work of people of faith and religious organizations and finding ways to support that work where possible. Republican. We value the right of America's religious leaders to preach and Americans to speak freely according to their faith. Republicans believe the federal government, specifically the Internal Revenue Service, is constitutionally prohibited from policing or censoring speech based on religious convictions or beliefs. And therefore, we urge the repeal of the Johnson Amendment. The contrast between these statements seems at first glance a bit more benign. However, they have to be evaluated in light of other evidence as well. For example, the recent revelation of emails from high-ranking advisors to one of the candidates admitting that he had started Catholic Alliance for the Common Good and Catholics United for the specific purpose of opposing Catholic teaching and planting seeds of division within the Catholic population in this country. My task as your pastor is to teach the authentic faith and provide you with the necessary principles and information with which you can form your conscience and exercise your proper role in the political life of our nation. It is not my task to tell you who to vote for. Sadly, in the present situation, we are indeed sailing between a modern-day Scylla and Charybdis. I fear that we, like Odysseus, must choose the least of two evils. My prayer is that we will indeed be guided by the constant truth of our Catholic faith and our convictions that what we do has meaning both in time and in eternity. May Our Lady of Fatima watch over us, guide us, and protect us. Thank you. I appreciate you all. I appreciate your witness. I appreciate your willingness to at least wrestle with these things and not simply, go down a path because that's the path that everyone's always gone down, and to really look at it. Know that I pray for you because really it is on you, the laity, and the way the demographics look on the women vote, to really deal with these things, and you often bring to the table the heart in addition to the mind, which is not always the case among other demographics. So I thank you for that, and please know I'm praying for you as well. And again, be prayerful, understand what the church teaches, why she teaches what she teaches, bring it to God, and then do what you need to do based on that. Okay. God bless you.